Hello everyone, welcome to YSHIA's YouTube channel. This is Pooja Sharma and I'm back with Geography Insert Class 11 series. So today we will be finishing part 2 of chapter 4, which is climate. So before we begin with the video, these are the contact details for UPSC test series. If in case you people are interested, you people can WhatsApp on this number which is displayed on the screen and you will get your enrollment details. So I am sorry for the background noises, but I'll try my best to be loud enough so that you can hear me clearly. So let's begin. So in the last video, I had concluded mentioning these 4 seasons which we are going to learn about today. Today we will learn them in detail, all these 4 seasons. So we are starting with the cold weather season. So the cold weather season, it usually starts by mid-November in northern India, and January and December are the coldest months in the northern plains. So the mean daily temperature, it always remains below 21 degrees Celsius over most part of northern India. And the night temperatures can sometimes reach to a freezing point in Punjab and Rajasthan, because as I told earlier, Rajasthan can have a very hot day and at the same time in the night it will have a very cold night. So the 3 main reasons why there is this excessive cold in North India is because states like Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, they are far away from the moderating influence of the sea. So there is this absence of the continental type of climate. Also, the snowfall which comes from Himalaya ranges, it is very cold and it carries with it a cold wave. Then what happens is the cold waves that are coming from outside the country as well, that is from the Caspian Sea and Turkmenistan. So what happens is it brings a combination of frost and fog over the northwestern parts of India. So the peninsular region of India, however, the case is different. This region, it does not have a well defined cold weather season. So there is hardly any seasonal change in the distribution pattern because of the coastal areas and the presence of the water body around it. So the temperature will keep balancing and there will be a moderating type of climate over here because of the moderating influence of the sea plus the proximity or the closeness to the equator. For example, when we take an example of Thiruvananthapuram, the mean maximum temperature for January, it is high as 31 degrees Celsius. But same time when we look at June, it will be only 29.5 degrees Celsius. It's a very little difference. And in the hills of Western Ghats, what happens is, it will remain comparatively low. It matlab the temperature because of the altitude. Now we have the pressure and winds of the cold weather season. So by the end of December, the sun will vertically shine over the Tropic of Capricorn, which is present in the southern hemisphere. And the weather in this season, it has feeble high pressure conditions over the northern plain. And in South India, what will happen? The air pressure will be slightly lower. Then these isobars which are present, the isobars of 1019 MB and 1013 MB, they pass through the northwest India and far south like this. So isobars are nothing but, you can see these lines on the map. So these isobars, they'll show us the atmospheric pressure of 2 places or 2 same places on the map over a period of time over a certain area, region. Then the winds, they start blowing from the northwestern high pressure zone to the low air pressure zone over the Indian Ocean in the south. So we know that winds move from high pressure to low pressure and vice versa. Then due to this low pressure gradient which is formed, the light winds, they'll start blowing with a low velocity of about 3 to 5 kilometers per hour. One important factor that influences the direction of wind is the topography of the region. So what happens is, Imagine there is a mountain and it is in the way of the wind which is blowing. So this mountain region will act as a barrier, and when the wind collides with the mountain, it will disperse or change its direction. So because of this reason, wind has different names which we read about when we are reading in geography. So they are westerly or the northwesterly, which run down through the Ganga valley because they run in this direction. So westerly, northwesterly. Then we have the northerly. So when they are blowing around the Ganga Brahmaputra delta, they are known as the northerly, and when they blow over the Bay of Bengal region, they'll be known as the northeasterly. So we all know that the winters in India is very pleasant, and this pleasant weather condition is not always pleasant, because what happens is it gets interfered because of the cyclonic depressions which will originate over the East Mediterranean Sea. Now imagine that this is a map over here also. So this East Mediterranean area and eastward places, like from where the wind will start blowing from the eastwards, from West Asia, Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan, before they enter the northwestern parts of India. So these winds, when they are coming from the Mediterranean Sea, they'll carry the water droplets, the moisture content in them, and these winds will further, when they reach the country, they cause rainfall in the northwestern regions. So as I said, now on their way, the moisture content gets increased from the Caspian Sea in the north and the Persian Gulf in the south. How many ever water bodies are there on the way, the winds will carry water droplets and then they will hit a certain object or a certain relief, and it will cause rainfall. Then we have rainfall, which is in the winter season. So in winter monsoon, what happens is rainfall does not happen when winds move from land to sea, but when they move from sea to land, that means any water body to land, that time it causes rainfall because it will carry water with them. So this is mainly because they have little humidity. When the winds are blowing from land to sea, they'll have little humidity, and due to anti-cyclonic circulation on land. So what happens is, on land, suppose if the wind direction is moving in clockwise direction, the circulation, then in the sea it will be in anti-clockwise direction, the circulation. So this also will cause a disruption and it will not let rainfall happen. So that's why it reduces the chance or possibility of rainfall. Then most parts of India, they do not receive rainfall, but there are certain exceptions, because in northwestern India, what happens, these weak temperate cyclones which come from the Mediterranean Sea, they cause rainfall in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and western Uttar Pradesh. So as I said earlier, when winds are blowing over the Mediterranean Sea, they'll carry those water droplets or moisture content with them, and when they enter India, they cause rainfall in these northwestern regions. So although this is very less rainfall, it is very beneficial for the rabi crops that grow in these regions. The precipitation is in the form of snowfall in the lower Himalayas. So what happens is, Himalayas is the only region where only snowfall occurs, and rest of the India there'll be rainfall. So the snows that we find in Himalayas, it sustains the flow of water in the Himalayan rivers. So as we know that the source for the Himalayan rivers, the water source, is the snow, and that snow in turn comes from glaciers and ice caps. So when this snow melts in the summer months, it gives source to these Himalayan rivers. Then the precipitation, it goes on decreasing from west to east, because how much can the wind carry water droplet and how much far can it go? The clouds get heavy and they start pouring. So from west to east, it will keep decreasing in the plains, but in the mountain, what happens is from north to south, as we read in the previous slides about Western Ghats, when it's moving from the north to south, higher to lower region, it will decrease. So the average winter rainfall in Delhi is 53 mm, and in Punjab and Bihar the rainfall remains between 25 to 18. So this is showing how from west to east it is decreasing. Then the central parts of India and the northern parts of the southern peninsula, they also get winter rainfall occasionally. That is because of the presence of the coastal areas. So Arunachal Pradesh and Assam in the northeastern parts of India, they also have rains between 25 mm to 50 mm during these winter season, mostly because of Bay of Bengal. So during October and November, as I said, northeast monsoon, when they cross over the Bay of Bengal, they pick up this moisture and cause torrential rainfall over the Tamil Nadu coast, southern Andhra Pradesh region, southeast Karnataka and Kerala. Then we have the hot weather season. So the temperature in the hot weather season, it will start rising in North India when there is a northward movement of the sun towards the Tropic of Cancer in the month of March. So April, May and June, they are the summer months in North India. But most parts of India, they have this temperature which is recorded between 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. And in March, the highest day temperature is about 38 degrees Celsius, which takes place in Deccan Plateau. But in April, the temperature that is recorded, it is having a range between 38 degrees Celsius to 43 degrees Celsius. And this range of temperature is found in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. So in May, the heat belt will further move north. And in the northwestern part of India, temperatures around 48 degrees Celsius, they are very common. So the hot weather season in South India is very mild and not so intense because of the moderating influence of the sea or ocean. So this keeps the temperature lower than what is present in North India, and here we can find the temperature between 26 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius. So what happens is, in the hills of Western Ghats, because of the altitude is nothing but the height, and we all know that as the height increases, the temperature decreases. So the temperature in the hills of Western Ghats, it will always remain below 25 degrees Celsius. And in the coastal regions, the north-south extent of the isotherms, it is, as you can see over here, it is parallel. So this being parallel to the coast, it confirms that the temperature, it will not decrease from north to south, rather it increases from the coast to the interiors. And the mean daily minimum temperature during the summer month, it always remains quite high and it doesn't go below 26 degrees Celsius. So the pressure and winds in the hot summer season, we can see excessive heat and falling air pressure in the northern part of the country. And because of this heating, what happens? The heating which takes place in the subcontinent, the ITCZ which is present, it will start moving northwards and it will occupy a position somewhere centered around 25 degree N latitude in July. So these elongated low pressure monsoon trough which extends over the Thar desert in the northwest, it will extend up to Patna and Chota Nagpur plateau which is present in the east and southeast. Then when this ITC moves northwards in the upward direction, it will start attracting a surface circulation of the winds which is moving in the southwesterly direction on the west coast. So, and along with attracting the winds on the west coast, it will also attract the winds along the coast of West Bengal and Bangladesh. So these are easterly or southeasterly over North Bengal and Bihar. As you can see, they are moving in southeasterly direction. Then the currents of the southwesterly monsoon that is present over here, these currents, water currents, they'll be displaced by equatorial waterleys, because we all know because we all know that the equator is below India. So your warm equatorial currents will be flowing, so they'll get displaced, the southwesterly monsoon currents. Then the winds that blow in this region, it will start bringing a change in the weather towards the rainy season. By the mid-June, it will start becoming cold. So when the ITCZ is in the northwest, the dry and the hot winds are known as the Lu, so which blow in the afternoon and they blow in the night time also, during the midnight. So dust storms are very common in places like Punjab, Haryana, Eastern Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh in the month of May. So these temporary storms, they bring with them light rains and a very pleasant cool breeze. So a sudden contact between the dry and moist air masses, it gives rise to local storms of great intensity, and these local storms can cause violent winds, torrential rains and even hailstorms. So these are some of the famous local storms of hot weather season. First is the mango shower. So mango shower, it starts during the end of the summer, and it is very common in the state of Kerala and the coastal areas of Karnataka. So the reason why it is known mango shower is it helps in the early ripening of the mangoes. Then we have the blossom shower, which happens in Kerala and nearby areas. So this helps in the blooming of the coffee flowers. Then we have the northwesters. So these northwesters, they are thunderstorms which occur in the evening in Bengal and Assam. So they are very notorious in nature, and they have this local name which is called Kal Baisakhi. So it is a calamity of the month of Baisak. So these showers, they are useful for the cultivation of tea, jute, rice, and in Assam these storms are known as Bardoli Chira. And Lu are the hot, dry and oppressing winds which are blowing in the northern plains from Punjab to Bihar. They have greater intensity between Delhi and Patna. That's why that heat wave which happens in Delhi, it is very next level type of heat. Then the southwestern monsoon season. So this is a very important season for our country. This usually happens This usually starts in the month of May, when there is a rapid increase of temperature over the northwestern plains. So the low pressure conditions over there, it will get intensified. Then by the early June, they'll be so powerful that they'll start pulling towards them the trade wind circulations of the southern hemisphere, which is coming from the Indian Ocean. So if you can see, the pull will be so strong that even a circulation which is taking place in the northwestern plains, it will pull winds which are coming from totally the southern hemisphere, downwards. So these southeast trade winds, what will happen when they cross the equator and enter the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, they will collide and join the air circulation which is happening over India. Then when they pass over the equatorial warm currents, they'll bring with them moisture in abundance. So as I said earlier, this equatorial warm currents which will take place in the Indian Ocean because of the proximity to the equator, they'll carry water droplets with them, and then they bring a lot of rainfall in abundance. Then after crossing the equator, they follow a southwesterly direction. That's why they are known as southwestern monsoon. So imagine this is the southwest. So they'll blow upwards like this, in southwest directions. That's why they are known as southwest monsoons. So the rain in the southwest monsoon, it will start very abruptly. So what happens is, when the first rain occurs, it will bring the temperature down substantially and it will be very, very cold. So the sudden onset of the monsoon laden winds, which has violent thunder and lightning associated with it, it is known as a break or burst of the monsoons. So the monsoon, it will be early in certain areas like the coastal areas of Kerala, Karnataka, Goa by the first week of June only. But in other parts of the countries which is present in the interiors, it will delay little bit because the winds will move towards the interiors, so it will take time. So by the first week of July, it will pour even in the interiors of the country. So during this season, we can see a decline in day temperature of up to 5 degrees Celsius to 8 degrees Celsius between mid-June and mid-July. So when these winds approach the land, because of their southwesterly direction, again they'll be modified because of the relief features like hills, mountains and large water bodies, rivers and all of that, and also the thermal low pressure which is created over the northwest India. So the monsoon of the southwest monsoon, it approaches the landmass in two branches. One is the Arabian Sea branch and one more is the Bay of Bengal branch. Then we have the monsoon winds of Arabian Sea. So this will originate from the Arabian Sea and they split into three branches. So one of its branch will get obstructed by the Western Ghats. So as we all know, Western Ghats is over here. So when the wind is blowing from the Arabian Sea towards the Western Ghats, this Western Ghats will act like a barrier. So the windward side, which is the western side of the Western Ghat, it will receive a lot of rainfall, whereas the leeward side of Western Ghats, which is the inner part of Western Ghats, it will receive very less rainfall compared to what is received on the windward side. So as you can see, the windward side, it receives 250 centimeters to 400 centimeters of rainfall. But after crossing Western Ghats, the air will descend downwards and it will get heated up. So cool air, it will become light and it will start, cool air will become heavy and it will start descending down. Then it will convert into hot air and then again it will rise up. So there will be very less humidity present in these winds. As a result of this, it will cause very less rainfall on the east side of the Western Ghats. So this area where very less rain is received, that is the leeward side of the Western Ghats, is known as the rain shadow area. So the second branch of the Arabian Sea, it strikes the coast of North Mumbai over here. So it will flow through the Rift Valley of Narmada and Tapi, and then it will cause rain in the Chota Nagpur plateau also on its way. So when it's passing through the Rift Valley of Narmada and Tapi, it will cause a lot of rainfall in many areas, extensive areas of central India, and then the Chota Nagpur plateau, it gets 15 centimeters of rainfall from this branch, Arabian Sea branch, and then they enter the Ganga plain and then again mix up with the Bay of Bengal branch. So a third branch of this monsoon wind, it will strike the Saurashtra Peninsula and the Kutch in Gujarat. So when suppose the wind is moving upwards like this, it will touch these places. So then it passes over West Rajasthan along the Aravallis, causing only scanty rainfall. Now why scanty rainfall is because these Aravallis, how Western Ghats acts like a barrier, even these Aravalli ranges, they act as a barrier over here and they prevent rain from going towards the other side of the mountains. So this becomes the leeward side. So because of this, there will be absence of rainfall in this season. So hence it will be dry and hot and the different type of vegetation which is found over here. Then in Punjab and Haryana, the rains which occur in Punjab and Haryana, these winds will again join off the Bay of Bengal branch, because as we all know that the rains which are causing in central India, it will join these winds which are present in central India from Punjab and Haryana, and then it will drain towards the Bay of Bengal branch. So these two branches again, they will get reinforced by each other over here and then cause rainfall in the northwestern Himalayas. Then we have the monsoon winds of Bay of Bengal, which originate in Bay of Bengal, and they strike the coast of Myanmar and southeast of Bangladesh. So what happens is the Arakan hills, which are present along the coast of Myanmar, they'll deflect these winds. So suppose these winds are coming like this in this direction, they'll hit the coast of these. They'll hit the Myanmar coast over here and these Arakan hills, and then they'll disperse. And when they disperse in different direction, they'll enter into India through West Bengal and Bangladesh from the south and southeast instead of southwesterly direction, because this is the closest region for the winds, and the pressure zones which are getting created over here, they'll attract these winds towards them. Then from here, this branch, because of the Himalayas and the thermal low which is present in northwest India, it will again get diverted in two directions. So one will go towards the Punjab plains, from the Ganga plains to the Punjab plains, and the other one will go to the north and the northeast part of India along the Brahmaputra valley. So this will cause a large amount of rainfall, because north and northeast is very close to this water body, that is our Bay of Bengal ka region. And the sub branches of this Bay of Bengal branch, it will strike the Garo Khasi hills of Meghalaya, which we saw in the previous videos, and Mizoram, which is located on the crest of the Khasi hills, it receives the highest average annual rainfall in the world. So here one important and interesting fact is the Tamil Nadu coast will remain dry during this season. It is because of two reasons. One is because Tamil Nadu coast, it is situated parallel to the Bay of Bengal branch of the southwest monsoon. So the eastern Ghats are also present. So these eastern Ghats also, they'll form some form of little bit obstruction to these winds and monsoons. And one more is, it lies in the rain shadow area of the Arabian Sea branch of southwest monsoon. This is the rain shadow areas, the interiors. Sorry, I forgot to show you the table. Yeah. So if you can see in the table, it is divided into 6 2-monthly seasons. 6 2-monthly seasons. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 2 months. So this is followed by the North India and the Central India people, and this is followed by the South Indian people. Then we have distribution of rainfall. Now as you can see in the diagram, the average rainfall of India, it is 125 centimeters, but with great spatial variations. So there is different categories of rainfall regions. So the regions of high rainfall are mainly along the coastal areas like the west coast, the western Ghats, and in the upper regions it is mainly near Himalayan areas in the northeast and the hills of Meghalaya, where the rainfall sometimes exceeds 200 centimeters. Even in some parts of Khasi and Jaintia hills, the rainfall will exceed 1000 centimeters also. So in Brahmaputra valley and the adjoining hills, the rainfall is less than 200 centimeters. Then we have the areas of medium rainfall. So the rainfall which is between 100 to 200 centimeters is mainly received in southern parts of Gujarat, East Tamil Nadu, northeastern peninsula covering Odisha, Jharkhand, Bihar and much more, as you can see on the screen. Then we have areas of low rainfall. So western Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir, eastern Rajasthan, they receive rainfall 50 to 100 centimeters. Then we have areas of inadequate rainfall, which are parts of peninsula, especially in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Ladakh, and most of the western Rajasthan, which receives rainfall before 50 centimeters because these are in the interiors. And as I said earlier, snowfall is only restricted to the Himalayan region. Then we have variability of rainfall. So a main feature of the rainfall of India is its variability, the different types of quantity of rainfall in different regions. So the actual rainfall in some places, it deviates from 20 to 50%. Deviates is nothing but the fluctuations that rainfall has. Then a variability which has less than 25%, it will be on the western coast, western Ghats, mainly high rainfall receiving areas. And sometimes these areas will have an annual rainfall over 100 centimeters. But the variability which is over 50%, it will be there in western part of Rajasthan and the interiors of the country. So these areas will have low rainfall or less than 50 centimeters, and rest of the India will have a combination of both 25 to 50%, and these areas will again have a combination of in between to 50 to 100 centimeters rainfall. So the climatic regions of India, so the whole of India, it has a monsoon type of climate, and many regional variations, they represent the monsoon type of climate in some or the other way, and it is on this basis that the climatic regions, it can be identified. So the reason why a climatic region will have a homogeneous type of climate is because of the combination of various factors. So temperature and rainfall are the two most important elements which are considered to be decisive in all the schemes of climatic classification. So the classification of climate, it is very difficult because sometimes it is predictable, sometimes it is not predictable. So there are different schemes of the classification of climate. So major climatic types of India is based on Koypin's scheme, which have been described below. That is, if you can see this table, so this is the type of climate and this is the areas. So these are the abbreviations which he has given for different climates. So these abbreviations, it can he's shown it on a map which I'll show you in the next slide. So these are the different seasons classified according to him, and these are the areas where they are found. So you can take a screenshot of this. Then Koypin based his scheme on the classification of climate on monthly values on the basis of temperature and rainfall. So as you can see these letters over here, these are those abbreviations, and he identified 5 major climatic types. So they are tropical climates, dry climates, warm temperate climates, then cool temperate climates, ice climates, and then they are telling us that he used letter symbols to denote climatic types which are given here on the table. So each type is further subdivided into subtypes on the basis of the seasonal variations in the quantity and pattern of rainfall and temperature. Then we have the connection between monsoons and the economic life in India. So monsoon play a very important role in the agricultural cycle of India because almost 64% people of India, they depend on agriculture for their livelihood, and agriculture itself is majorly heavily dependent on the southwest monsoons. So except Himalaya, what has happened is in our country, the entire country has a temperature which is above the threshold level, which is very suitable to grow crops throughout the year. And the regional variations in monsoon climate, it helps in growing different types of crops in different regions. And the variability of rainfall, it brings droughts, floods every year in some parts of the country. So the agriculture prosperity of India, it is very much dependent on the time period and the proper quantity of rainfall which has to come into the country. If not, if it fails, agriculture will get very much affected, it will get adversely affected, and particularly those regions which don't have a well developed means of irrigation. Then the sudden monsoon burst, it creates a problem of soil erosion over large areas in India. So this will result in a lot of damages and destructions like landslides. Trees will fall, because when the upper layer of the soil gets washed away, the trees will not have anything to hold, because the roots of the trees, they hold on tight to the soil. But when the soil gets washed off, it will cause large scale of landslides. Then the winter rainfall, which is caused by the temperate cyclones in North India, it is highly beneficial for the rabi crops, as we read in the earlier slides, which comes from the Mediterranean Sea. And the regional climatic variations in India, it is clearly seen in the vast variety of food, clothes, house types, and other aspects. Then we have our main topic, which is very important from UPSC perspective, because global warming, climate change, and environmental related topics are UPSC's favorite question forming topics. So make sure that after watching this video, you go and make notes on global warming, climate change, how they are connected, solutions to how global warming can be curbed, prevented, and reduced. So we all know that the law of nature keeps changing every now and then. So similar way, even climate has witnessed this change in the past, whether it is at global level or at local level, and even at present it is still changing day to day. This change is inevitable. So there are a number of geological evidence and reasons which suggest that once upon a time a large part of the earth was under the ice cover, but because of the natural causes, slowly that ice cover started melting, and that was the beginning of global warming, and that time it was very much less. But recently, because of human activities such as large scale industrialization, then presence of polluting gases in the atmosphere, these are some important factors which are responsible for very fast and rapid global warming. So the temperature of the world, it is significantly increasing. This is mainly due to the carbon dioxide which is produced by human activities, and it is a major source of concern. So this gas, it is released into the atmosphere in very large quantities by burning fossil fuels and other activities. So other gases like methane, chlorofluorocarbons, then nitrous oxide, these all are present in much smaller amounts in concentration in the atmosphere. But when they join together with carbon dioxide, they are known as greenhouse gases, and they can join more damage after joining with carbon dioxide. So these gases, what they do is they absorb the long wave radiations more than carbon dioxide, and they enhance the greenhouse effect more. So these gases are a very big reason which have contributed to global warming, and it is said that due to global warming, the polar ice caps and the mountain glaciers, they'll melt, and the amount of water in the oceans would increase soon. So what happens is, there are two types of the melting of the ice caps. One, it will happen naturally, slowly, it will take time. But the one which is caused by humans, which is man-made, it will happen very fast, and it is very unnatural. It is not good. It can lead to large scale of flooding. So the mean annual surface temperature of the earth in past 150 years has increased, and it is said that by the year 2100, global temperature, it will increase by 2 degrees Celsius, and this rise in temperature will cause a lot of changes, especially rise in the sea level. So this will result in the melting of glaciers and sea ice due to the warming. So according to one of the current predictions, it is said that the sea level will rise by 48 centimeters by the end of the 21st century, and this will increase the incidence of annual flooding. So climate change would promote insect-borne diseases like malaria, and it will shift the climatic boundaries of animals, plants, humans, and many other things, and it will make some regions very wet and some regions very dry. Also, the agricultural pattern, it will shift, and human population will also face a change. The ecosystem, the animals, all that will get affected. So I just wanted to tell you all that make sure you read more about global warming and climate change and whatever is related to those points, because sometimes geography has to be related with environment topics also. So make sure that you also find solutions for global warming and make a note of them, along with the disadvantages and the harmful effects of global warming. I hope that you people find this video informative, and if you do, please like, share and comment down below the video. Give me your suggestions. I'll be very happy to include them. I'll be back with chapter 5, and for those students who are interested for the UPSC test series, you can contact on this number on WhatsApp, and you'll get your enrollment details, and you can ask other doubts also. Until next time, all the best and thank you very much.